Good morning. Welcome to a new week. It is rainy outside and supposed to be a high of like 64 degrees, which is crazy because it is midsummer and it feels like fall out there. So what I'm going to do is take advantage of this kind of like cozy weather. I even lit some candles because it felt appropriate. And we're going to get some meal prep done, some high protein meal prep for this week. I have some big like in-house organizational projects I want to get to this week. I've got some big gardening projects I want to get to this week. And then I do need to do a big cooking day later in the week for a big barbecue that we're going to. So I thought, let's get some serious meal prep done at the beginning of the week. I have found that it really helps me go into a week if I have some fresh meal prep in the fridge ready to go. I obviously do have some freezer meals and things like that, but I've kind of been lately enjoying having some fresh meal prep in the fridge and some freezer meals. So today's goal is going to be all high protein and some higher fiber options. I have a protein goal and a fiber goal every day, and I have found that I'm struggling to get my fiber goal in. So some of these recipes, I'm gonna focus on trying to up the fiber in them. And the first thing I want to get going on are some high protein bagels. These are going to have more fiber in them because I am going to use some freshly milled flour, which does have more fiber than all-purpose flour. But this recipe that I'm actually going to link for you calls for all-purpose flour. So if you don't have a grain mill, you can still make this high protein bagels. I haven't made these in a while, but they are so good. So we're gonna use these as a base for some breakfast sandwiches that I wanna prep for the refrigerator because we have no breakfast sandwiches prepped. We're also just gonna make some plain ones just to have some plain high protein bagels. Basically, they're 4 ingredients and they could not be easier to make. And then we're also going to make a garbanzo bean herb chicken salad, which sounds so incredibly fresh, crunchy, and delicious. And to go on that, we're going to make a cottage cheese wrap. I don't like eating cottage cheese just by itself. I never have, and I've seen this wrap go around online. It's super viral. People really like it, so we're gonna try it. So we are gonna make a high protein chicken salad that we can put in the wrap that's gonna have garbanzo beans that we just jarred up together the other day. And I have found that I have a really hard time getting my fiber goals if I don't eat beans, lentils, or chia seeds. So this chicken salad is not only gonna be high protein from the wrap that we're gonna make, but also the chicken. And then we're gonna get our fiber from our garbanzo beans. And then we are gonna make a dessert. We're gonna make a high protein cheesecake. So we're using cottage cheese in all 3 of these recipes. And I've got to see how many times batches I can make. The protein bagels, only 1 serving only makes 4 bagels. And I definitely wanna make at least 4 breakfast sandwiches for the fridge, 2 for Josh, 2 for me. And then I wanna make just some plain ones for my son to have with just like cream cheese or jam or something like that. And I need cottage cheese. I could only get 3 things of cottage cheese at the store yesterday, so that is our limiting factor. So we need 1 cup of cottage cheese for our high protein wraps. So I'm gonna do a triple batch of our protein bagels, which should get us 12 bagels. I'm going to do a half batch of our cheesecakes because I'm gonna make individual cheesecakes and I only need 6 of them. We don't need more than that. And so we need half of a container for that. And then we're going to do a double batch of our high protein cottage cheese wraps. Okay, so now I know what I'm gonna do moving forward. I'm gonna get this baking sheet ready. I need to blend up our cottage cheese. Basically for all of the recipes, we need blended cottage cheese. So I might pull out my blender. I was gonna use the immersion blender, but maybe I'll use the immersion blender. I'm just gonna write on here real quick how many times of each recipe I'm doing so that I don't forget. So we're gonna do 3 times bagel, 2 times egg wrap, or not egg wrap, there is egg in it, I guess, and then half of the cheesecake. I have a combination of full fat cottage cheese. This one is full fat. And the Good Culture is 2% because that's what they had. So that's what I got. And we're gonna blend this so that it's really smooth. Some of the recipes that we're following called for full fat, some called for 2%, and I think a mixture of the 2 is not gonna be a big deal. So that's what we're doing. I have found that I like cottage cheese if I mix it into things and make stuff with it, as opposed to just eating it with like a snack. It is July and this weather is crazy. Last week it was in the 90s. Then it's supposed to be in the 60s and rainy for the next few days. So we're gonna get my meal prep and some inside projects done. And then it's supposed to, hopefully before we have this big barbecue over the weekend, warm back up, which will be nice. Because I have some really fun cold desserts that I want to make for this barbecue with you all, and we would enjoy them probably a little bit more if it wasn't 65 degrees outside. Okay, so I'm going to start with 3 3/4 cup of hard white wheat. You could use all-purpose flour for this. I will link this recipe down below for you. I have made these before and they've turned out fantastic. So I'm hoping they just turn out just as well as they have in the past. But the recipe that I'm linking for you calls for self-rising flour, which I don't have. So to make self-rising flour, all you have to do is add baking powder and salt. That's all self-rising flour is. I think I just put too much salt in there. Because we're gonna put some everything but the bagel seasoning on top, and that has salt, so I just took some of that off. And then we need to put in our cottage cheese. And I am measuring this out because I need cottage cheese for our other recipes. If you were with me when we did the last breakfast, high protein, and lunch meal prep, we made some cottage cheese pancakes and they were so good. If high protein, high fiber recipes are something you're interested in, I can link my other 2 high fiber, high protein meal prep days I've done down below for you. And I'm gonna mix this with a gloved hand because it's just gonna be easier than doing it with a mixer. And I might need to add some more flour to this. We'll just have to see what the consistency is like once I get this all mixed together. I think I'm gonna get a second hand in there. I grabbed a glove, but I wasn't sure if I was gonna need it. No pun intended. We're not actually gonna really need this dough. We're just gonna mix it basically. So this looks like it needs a little bit more moisture. So I'm going to use, instead of using my cottage cheese that I need for some other recipes, I'm just gonna put a scoop of Greek yogurt because that is a substitution that you can do. You can make this high protein bagel recipe with Greek yogurt or cottage cheese. I think because I'm using the fresh flour that has the bran and germ still in it, it's just absorbing the moisture a little bit more than if I was to use an all-purpose flour. That looks like a better consistency there. Now we're obviously not making a yeasted bagel. We are making a baking powder bagel. So this does not need to rise at all, but I do want that bran and germ to hydrate. So I'm gonna cover this and just let that sit for about 10 minutes before we bake it and shape it. I just want that to be a good consistency and not kind of dry when we actually go to put it into the oven. So I think what we could get going on next is let's get our chicken cooking and our garbanzo beans ready to be roasted. This garbanzo chickpea chicken salad is one I'm kind of making up based on what I had on hand and what just sounded really good. So we need to open up our I'm gonna do 2 jars of chickpeas. And we're gonna roast these and get them really super crunchy. So this could really just be a snack all on its own, or we can top our chicken salad with it to kind of have like a crunch inside our chicken salad, which I think will be delicious. And I am gonna rinse them really well. So I just have a sieve here. I was thinking of just adding the chickpeas to the chicken salad because I think that would be good too. But then I thought, what if we roasted them when we were cooking the chicken and then we had just like a crunchy topping that we could season really well? I think that will be even better. So that's what we're gonna do. And then I did wash up some cilantro, some green onions, and some celery that we're gonna need. Looks like these jarred up really well. This was my first time home jarring or home canning chickpeas. Looks like they cooked up nicely. This is my absolute new favorite kitchen tool. I have avocado oil that I put in here and it just sprays beautifully. I can link it down below for you. I'm going to put just a little bit of avocado oil on there, some homemade seasoned salt, and I want this to have a little bit more smoked paprika than that seasoned salt has. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit more smoked paprika on here. I really feel like I should get my cheesecakes going so that those can be cooled before we get them in the fridge. So let's go ahead and make our cheesecake. And it looks like when I printed out my recipe, I cut off the crust portion of the cheesecake. So I'm gonna have to go back and print that out so that I can make the crust. Got the recipe now, and I melted some butter. So we're gonna make our crust, and we're gonna make little individual cheesecakes because I thought this would be fun. So I'm gonna bake them in my ramekins as opposed to doing a springform pan. And one full recipe of this cheesecake recipe that I found makes 12 servings, and that's more than we need. So I am gonna make 6 servings here. I think it will be easiest actually if I put these on a baking dish. So to our melted butter, I'm gonna add almond flour. And this recipe calls for a sweetener in the crust. I think I'm gonna leave the sweetener out, but I'm gonna add a good amount of vanilla and a good pinch of salt. And we may need to add a little bit more almond flour. But we're gonna get this mixed together. Or maybe we won't need to add any more almond flour. Oh, you know what I think would be good with this? We're going to add some almond extract. So it'll almost be like kind of like a banquette filling. That's a Christmas dessert we make every year in our family. It's basically almond paste with pastry and, oh yeah, that smells fantastic. And we're gonna bake this, and this is gonna toast up and get some yummy flavor in the oven. Hopefully I didn't add too much almond extract. I'm gonna call an audible, and I'm gonna put 1 tablespoon of maple syrup in there, and that will help with the browning. I'm gonna taste it. Okay, that salt that I added is gonna be so good. Delicious. So I was thinking this cheesecake could be eaten basically for dessert or even a breakfast maybe. And I need to divide this into 6ths. We're supposed to reduce the oven temperature to 222 degrees. So those are gonna bake for 8 to 10 minutes in there. In the time it takes for those to bake, we can definitely get our cheesecake made up. And I did buy some monk fruit for this, but I've never baked or cooked with monk fruit, and I just don't feel like I wanna use it. So I am going to just basically make up my own recipe here. I'm going to link the one that I'm being inspired by down below, but this is a total inspiration because I'll talk you through what I'm gonna change. So the first thing we need is a 1/2 cup of cottage cheese, and we can make this filling right in the blender. And then we need a half a cup of yogurt, and I think that's basically all that I have in here. Need a plate. Trying to clean as I go and not make a huge mess today. And let me make sure it's a half a cup. Oh, a third of a cup. Now, I don't know why I'm looking at that recipe because I'm not going to be following that recipe at all. Okay, I'm just going to use the whole thing because this is a half a cup basically, and I think that'll be fine. So if this turns out, I will write up what I'm doing here. And then I'm going to do, let's see, I'll be able to eyeball it easier in here. This is 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. Those are going to be lightly sweetened. And then the recipe calls for protein powder. I don't really want to put protein powder in this. We're going to try to get our protein from Whole Foods. My chickens have started laying again. Look at how beautiful that is. White and green eggs in this carton. I'm going to put 2 whole eggs in here. If you wanted higher protein, you could do just the egg whites, but I'm not going to separate my chickens' eggs from their yolks because my chickens have the best yolks because they're free ranging right now. And then I have 1 block of cream cheese. My favorite cream cheese is Tillamook brand because there's no thickeners or anything in it, but they didn't have it at the store I went to when I bought this cream cheese. So we're just going to use a regular block of cream cheese. I'm going to add some vanilla and almond extract. So half a teaspoon of almond, a full teaspoon of vanilla bean paste, and we're going to mix this. So the things that I'm changing is I'm adding the egg instead of protein powder, and I'm adding 2 tablespoons of maple syrup instead of the monk fruit. All right, so I did add that pinch of salt, and that is our cheesecake mixture. And then we will add fruit to this, and that will help sweeten it up as well. So we need to wait a few minutes for our crust to be done. So I'm just gonna set this whole thing over here because we're gonna use this blender again, so I don't really wanna put it away. And you know what I need to get going on? I need to get these bagels shaped and starting to bake, but I also wanna get our chicken cooking for our chicken salad. So I think let's do that. Let's get our chicken cooking real quick. This isn't gonna take very long at all. My chickpeas are almost done, so that's why I wanna go ahead and get this chicken ready because I am going to get this chicken cooking in the same oven that I had the chickpeas in. And I might even put them in at the same time. I've got about 2.5 pounds of chicken breast here, boneless, skinless. I'm gonna roast this in the oven. You can, when you make chicken salad, use a rotisserie chicken. You can put these chicken breasts in the Instant Pot and cook them. If you had cooked a whole chicken and you had some leftover chicken, you could use that. You could use canned chicken. I personally don't love boiled chicken when I make chicken salad. I know that's super popular, but just the texture of it's not my favorite. I do that sometimes out of convenience and ease, but when I have a second to actually roast the chicken or cook it on the stove, I do prefer that texture of how the chicken kind of cooks up. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna cut them in half lengthwise so that they cook up a little bit faster and then they don't dry out as easily. And I am taking the time, if there's any bits of chicken that I just don't want in my chicken salad, I'm gonna go ahead and get that cut off now. I know Ina Garden would get bone in skin on chicken breast whenever she makes her chicken salad, and she roasts that, and that would be delicious, but we're just using chicken breast today. I never regret when I take time to put a chicken salad in my refrigerator because I love it over salad. I just eat it with a spoon. I put some hot sauce on it, eat it with a fork and whatever it might be. And it's just so nice having that high protein option. Josh will probably eat it with the, oh, I forgot. We're making wraps. So we're gonna eat it with wraps. I almost forgot we were doing that. I'm just gonna put a little bit of avocado oil on there and then our seasoned salt. But normally when I eat chicken salad, I just eat it over lettuce or I eat it with a fork. And then Josh usually has it on bread. And he can have it with one of these high protein bagels, and I guess I could too if I wanted, because we're gonna make some plain ones. So these are going in the oven. Our chickpeas are not quite done, and I want them to be on top, so I'm gonna put this down here, and I'm gonna get my chicken underneath the chickpeas. I just tasted one of the chickpeas, and they are not done yet. And our crust for our cheesecake does not quite look done yet either. So we're gonna get going on these bagels and get them shaped. Now I did have about 1 more cup of flour, freshly milled, and then I had that yogurt. So I did go ahead and basically I quadrupled the batch. So we should get 16. I have 1,500 basically grams of dough. 1524. Let's divide that by maybe 10. Yeah, so we'll do 150 grams of dough per bagel. And let's see. I'm gonna do the macros for that. Figure out how much grams of protein and fiber we have if we have 150 grams of dough. If we do 150 grams per bagel, then we are looking at 18 grams of protein per bagel. So let's see how big 125 grams, oh, I said 150? That seems like way too big of a bagel. Maybe not. That looks like a decent sized bagel. I'm now just messing around with the different size bagels I could make. I think 125 grams seems like a really good size. So I'm gonna make 125 gram size bagels. I think our cheesecake crust is done at this point, so I'm gonna take a second here and get this into our ramekins. Chickpeas are not done yet. This looks good. They're just starting to brown up nicely. I probably shouldn't do this in the oven. These already smell so good. And in all 6 of these cheesecakes, we only have a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. Oh, I can smell the maple syrup and I can smell the almond extract. Just realized if you have a little oil on your hands, you get a much smoother finish on the bagel. So that's good to know. Doesn't look quite so craggy. So I have everything but the bagel seasoning. I'm gonna put on 6 of these. These 6 I'm gonna turn into breakfast sandwiches. And then these 6 are gonna be just left plain, and they can be for either chicken salad sandwiches, or they can be toasted with cream cheese, toasted with butter and jelly, whatever we wanna make bagels with. So now let's see, we've done quite a few components. I think what I need to do is actually check my chicken, because the chicken might be done. And we need to put these bagels in that oven. All right, I checked the chicken and it is at 180. So I'm gonna get this out of the oven. I'm gonna rotate these just a little bit. I've lowered the oven temp to 350, and I'm gonna bake these at 350 for about 30 minutes. And I'll rotate them halfway through. The dogs are letting me know there's a delivery driver here. When I jiggle these, they don't really jiggle much, so I'm gonna take these out because I definitely don't want to overcook them. So we're gonna let these cool, and that means we can go ahead and we can get going on our wraps, because those are gonna take 30-ish minutes to bake. So I did not realize how many baking sheets we're using today. This is definitely a little bit more, I don't want to say labor intensive because all these recipes are easy, but we're definitely going through baking sheets. That's why I like parchment paper, because it's definitely nice to not have to clean up all of them. All right, I just took a second to kind of clean my kitchen a little bit. I made lunch for my family, so it's been a little bit of time since we were in the kitchen, and now we're gonna get going on our wraps. So I've got my largest baking sheet here lined with parchment paper, and I went ahead and washed my blender. We're having a lot of the same ingredients in here, so it doesn't have to be like completely scrubbed. And I'm going to grab the recipe because I don't remember the ratios. There's only like 2 ingredients in here. It is cottage cheese, eggs, and then whatever seasonings you want. My dog's just asked to go out again. And per one recipe, it makes 2 wraps, has 20 grams of protein, and it calls for 1 cup of cottage cheese and 2 eggs, and then whatever seasonings you want. So my eggs are all different sizes, so this is gonna be interesting. And I have 2 cups of cottage cheese here because we've used 2 cups for the bagels, 1 cup for the cheesecake, and that's gonna leave me with 2 cups here. So we're gonna put in 4 eggs, and I'm assuming this recipe calls for large eggs. I have some teeny tiny eggs, and then I have some larger eggs, so I'm gonna go for my larger eggs here. And if this is good, I was thinking you could do savory or sweet when you go to actually top this with things. I was gonna put everything with the bagel seasoning on top for delicious flavor, but then I thought, if I do that, then I couldn't wrap it with like peanut butter and jelly. I don't know. These might not be good. We might not even like them, but we'll see. So I'm grabbing my largest eggs here, and I'm glad I just looked in there because I got a shell. This is why I always wash my chicken eggs before I use them. That's it for the ingredients. Now, one thing about the recipe is it didn't say how thin or thick to have it. So I'm trying to have it even. It's definitely going to be thinner on the sides where the parchment paper lifts a little bit, but that's okay. I think. I say that, but I don't know because I haven't made this before. Get that parchment paper to lay a little flatter. Okay. Into the oven, I think it goes. I wanted my chickpeas a little bit crunchier, so I put them back in the oven, and now we have this in this oven, so we'll see how that bakes up. Our bagels are baking up nicely. I'm happy with the size of those. It smells amazing. So now we have our two bread products. I mean, that is definitely a bread product. This is a wrap for a sandwich. We got our chickpeas done. We have our chicken done. So let's make the dressing and the crunchy vegetable bits for our chicken salad. And then we need to make the sauce for the cheesecake. I also need to get some eggs cooking for our breakfast sandwiches. So let's get the eggs cooking, or at least my griddle warming, and let's get our sauce for our cheesecakes going. And I think I'm going to use some chia seeds in the sauce so that we can get, oh, my little pot was used to make lunch. So, because I didn't have much meal prep done, I don't have any French toast or pancakes in the freezer right now. I forgot, I do have some sandwich bread I could have warmed up for lunch, but I basically had to cook a lunch because I didn't have anything meal prepped, and this isn't done. And so I used my little pot for that. So I don't feel like washing that by hand, so I'm just gonna grab another pot, and we get to decide what type of fruit topping we want to put. I have blueberries from last year's blueberry harvest in my freezer, and my blueberries are starting to ripen up now, so I've been trying to use them up. I think they're over here, so let me go get those. And instead of using like a cornstarch slurry or something to thicken this up, I'm going to use chia seeds. And one of you all told me, and I haven't tried it yet, that you can grind your your chia seeds up, and that way you don't have the texture of chia seeds if you don't like that crunchiness. I happen to like the crunchiness, but I do want to try it because sometimes when I put chia seeds in my yogurt, I am tired of the crunchiness. Like, I don't want it, so I'm gonna have to try that sometime. I'm gonna do 2 cups because I'm gonna cook this down quite a bit because I want to get the blueberry flavor in there really well. And I had help from my 2 nephews pick these blueberries, so they're not the sweetest because there's definitely some pretty tart ones that were picked. So I'm gonna let those cook down. And then I'm not sure how I'm gonna sweeten it yet. I haven't decided. That's warming. We got our eggs out. Let me clean this up. I do need my blender again, so I'm gonna wash it real quick. I really scrubbed my blender completely because we're gonna be making our dressing for our chicken salad, and I needed it nice and clean. I have not fully figured out how I want my chicken salad dressing to be. I know I want it to be kind of like a green goddess dressing. So I've got cilantro, green onion, celery, some pickled jalapenos. I bought these and they're not my favorite. I got from Trader Joe's their candied pickled jalapenos, and they were fantastic. I went through the jar in less than a week. I went back to buy them, and I did not realize they were a seasonal item. So I tried these, and they're good, but they're just like a regular pickled jalapeno, which are not my favorite just in general. They're fine. They're just, I would rather have a fresh jalapeno or a candied pickled jalapeno. So we're gonna use this to make our dressing. And then I've got some mayo and I've got some yogurt. So to make the dressing, it's gonna be a base of Greek yogurt, and then we're gonna add some mayo. So we're gonna get a little bit of a lighter dressing. This is one of my favorite tricks to make chicken salad a little higher protein and a little lighter, is to use Greek yogurt as the base, but then to add some mayo to get that flavor. So we have 3 pounds of chicken. So I'm gonna start with about a cup here of Greek yogurt. This is a 2% Greek yogurt. And then I'm gonna put a few tablespoons of mayo for the flavor. And then I need to go out into the garden. That's probably 2 tablespoons right there. And I want to grab some other herbs that I have out in my garden. And one thing I did not take into account when making these wraps is that my oven is not level. And so a lot of the wrap mixture has kind of oozed down to this side. So we'll see how that turns out. I'm sure it'll be okay. But maybe it'll be one of those recipes that's like a one and done type thing. So we've had rain for the past like 4 or 5 days, which is kind of crazy for us. It's good for this green stalk because I've gotten a bunch of my green beans to sprout finally. Those are green bean plants right here. And I want a really herbaceous, my basil doesn't look super happy because it's been so cold. I want a really herbaceous dressing. So I'm going to pick up basically all of my basil that I have. It's definitely not thrived in this colder weather. There's more basil that I have down here. I'm going to grab all that I can right now. And I also want some parsley. Not a lot. If I had red onion, I would add red onion diced to our chicken salad, but I forgot to buy that at the store yesterday when I picked up a few of these ingredients. I might actually have a red onion out in my garden that's big enough I could pick. I have not looked at those in a couple days since the rain has come in. That was about 3 scallions. They're basically just a pickled jalapeno. I'm gonna put a couple of those in there. Not too many because I don't want to make this too spicy. But I thought this would be a good way to kind of get a vinegar flavor in there and get some of those used up. Add a big pinch of black pepper and a pinch of seasoned salt. Now let's get this blended up. Okay, that doesn't have much flavor yet. It does have a nice little heat though at the end, but we definitely need to add some garlic powder, seasoned salt. I'm gonna add some smoked paprika. I'm gonna add a little bit of our pickle brine to get some vinegar in there. Now let's blend this up and see what this tastes like. I'm surprised I can't taste that basil more. So I'm hoping that adding the salt is all we needed for that. We're almost there. Let's add a little bit more. Ooh, the after heat on that is really good. Little bit more. This, I think in that wrap, if the wrap turns out, it's gonna be so good. New spoon. Okay, pickled jalapenos in a green goddess dressing, probably my new favorite thing. That is a fantastic way to use up something that I wasn't that excited about having. So now I'm gonna prep these veggies, and I need to prep the chicken, but I need to clean this up a little bit. And I did turn my blueberries off. I need to taste them, see if they need any sort of sweetener. My hope would be that they kind of just sweetened up on their own. But like I said, because I had some help picking these blueberries, some of them were pretty tart going into the bag. The freezer bag. I think that's good. Maybe I'll put 1 tablespoon of maple syrup in there. Let's see if that is a little bit more balanced. Perfect. Look how beautiful these look. So if you've never made these cottage cheese bagels, they bake up really nicely. Oh my goodness, look at these ones. So nice and so easy. The bottom one's got a little darker on the bottom, but I think they will be just fine. I'm gonna get these on a cooling rack so that they don't get too soft. Halfway through cooking, my gut is telling me to take this and flip it over and let it finish cooking on this side. So this side gets cooked evenly, but you can see how it's definitely thinner on this side as opposed to that side. So we'll finish the cooking process like this. And that is almost done. I'm excited to see how that turns out. I just took the egg wrap out of the oven, and I'm curious how I'm gonna like that, because it smells pretty eggy. And this will just get better as it sits in the fridge, and all those flavors come together. I'm gonna call this a green goddess chicken salad. Let's give it a try. You heard that crunch? That green goddess dressing is incredible. It has the perfect amount of heat. There's just like this light, tingly heat that's after, like an aftertaste, and it's so good. Now I will tell you what would make this over the top incredible. Like a tablespoon or two of honey would balance and just make this sweet, spicy, herby deliciousness. I'm gonna leave that out, but if you were gonna recreate this and you wanted to add a little honey, I think it would bring it over the top good. But because I added maple syrup and things to my dessert, I'm gonna leave this just like this. And this would make a delicious sauce for anything. It would make a delicious dipping sauce for veggies, for pouring over roasted potatoes, pouring over a burrito, dipping a quesadilla in it, really anything. That is fantastic. I could eat that with a spoon. So now this is done. I'm gonna put this in the fridge to chill. It will be better too, I think, once it's chilled. I wanna taste that egg wrap with you because I'm a little curious what I'm gonna think of it. The blueberry compote thickened up really nicely, so I'm not gonna add chia seeds, but if you wanted to up the fiber in your dessert, you could add chia seeds and you could grind them and they would then not be so crunchy. I wanna try that. I just have not tried that yet. But I cooked it down. You can see I cooked it down pretty thick. So I want to get every last little bit because I put 2 cups of blueberries from my garden in here and I don't want any of that to go to waste. Delicious. I just took about 15 minutes to get my dishwasher going. I got all the dishes washed by hand. We're gonna go ahead and make up our breakfast sandwiches, and then we're going to test out this wrap. I'm not so sure about it. And then we are going to test our taste test our string cheese. Can I do this without dropping one of these onto the floor? Did I say string cheese? We are going to test our cheesecake. And I just realized I did all the dishes except I forgot to wash this one. So I'll get this one washed. That's probably the easiest dish I have to wash. The only bummer is that I washed my sink out and now I'll have to wash it out again, but that'll be okay. So I'm excited to show you what the inside of these bagels look like. They should have baked up really nicely, I think. It's been a while since I've made them, but I've made these protein bagels a few times. Perfect. Super happy with that. So I'm just gonna cut each one in half. That looks great. They are a little bit like denser and chewier than a traditional bagel. And I think that's normal, especially with the fresh milled flour, but they still have a great flavor and a great texture, even though the texture is just a little bit different than a traditional bagel. And yes, I did take a round and cut this cheese to fit these bagels because these bagels are pretty small. And the provolone cheese that I had would have gone off by a good ½ inch around the whole thing. And I just wanted it to fit nicely. And I think because I put such a small piece of cheese, I'm gonna go ahead and put another piece of cheese on. I'm not doing any sort of breakfast meat or anything like that. Here I can show you, this is the size of the provolone cheese that I have. And it's just would have been twice the size of the bagel. So I'm gonna save this and I'll put that on something. But for these, I just wanted something to kind of fit a little bit better. Oh shoot, I only cut 5. And I just put my cookie cutter in the dishwasher. So we'll just do this. That'll be perfect. I just don't like when you go to reheat these and the cheese melts all over the outside. So just like that, we've got 6 breakfast sandwiches and 6 bagels. The bagels I am just gonna put in a bag and we will, oh, I don't have any bags. All right, so I'm gonna have to go downstairs. Oh, I'll use one of these. I was gonna say, I am not going to freeze these plain bagels. These are just going to be for fresh eating, and I'll just store them in the fridge because they, I think, will stay a little fresher longer that way. I'm just gonna use one of my produce bags. And we will use this on our chicken salad. We will use that for toasted with cream cheese, toasted with jam and butter, toasted with peanut butter and jelly, whatever it might be. And then I'm gonna wrap these breakfast sandwiches individually. I'm excited that we got 6. That way, if Josh wants 2 of them, he can have 2 of them. And I probably, on the days that I'll have this, I might have some like yogurt or something like that to boost up the protein. I did the math on how much protein is in one of those bagels. And let me see if I can get it. I just did some chicken scratch. So all I did to find out the macros of these different items is I put the ingredients into ChatGPT and I said, can you find me the macros? So it's probably not like 100% exact, but it's close enough. So per bagel, with 1 bagel of 125 grams of our dough mixture, an egg, and our cheese, it is a total of basically 400 calories, almost 8 grams of fiber, which is pretty good, I'd say, for a breakfast sandwich, and 26 grams of protein. So that's pretty good for a bagel sandwich, I would say. If you wanted to up the protein a little bit more, you could use 2 egg whites instead of a whole egg, but I just used a whole egg for my chicken. And that worked. And then I can tell you the macros on the other ingredients that we have. And then I can tell you the macros of the chicken salad. This whole entire chicken salad, without the chickpeas on the top, if I divide this into 6 portions, it's 47 grams of protein and 300 calories and 3 grams of fiber if I add a 1/4 cup of the chickpeas. So that is pretty awesome to have such a high fiber item. I just pulled that out of the fridge because we're going to try it on one of our wraps. And if we eat it on one of those wraps, we're gonna add an extra 20 grams of protein, which is pretty crazy. But I don't know if I'm gonna like those wraps. I'm a little skeptical, but I wanna use this cutting board to make the sandwich, so I need to get these wrapped up. I'm gonna put, I think, 3 of these in the freezer and 3 of them I will keep out. I'm not sure if Josh will want one of these. I'm sure he probably will. So I'm really excited about this. I'm just gonna put these in the freezer here. I will eat these in the next week and a half probably, so I'm just gonna put them in this freezer here. And in my fridge, put these in the fridge. Actually, I'm gonna leave these out because I think in just a little bit, my family is gonna wanna eat those. And now I have not eaten lunch. Let's make up one of these wraps using this egg cottage cheese wrap. So I did not bake this perfectly, clearly, because if you look at this, this is not exactly how it's looked when I look at it from what people have cooked online. My oven is not level. And so this side is super crispy and crunchy, and maybe that'll taste good, but this side is pretty flexible except for the fact that this side ripped. It's probably thicker than it's supposed to be on this side. So what I think I'm gonna do is cut a nice piece off of this. So 1/4 of this is 20 grams of protein, and 1/6 of this is 47 grams of protein, which is crazy. And then I just threw some chickpeas on the top, but I have a whole carton of more chickpeas. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to wrap that up. Maybe like a taco? Or maybe fold it up. I just don't want it falling out the end. Okay. So it is cracking a little bit. This right here is like 65 grams of protein. This is delicious. I was fully expecting to tell you I did not like this wrap because I thought it was gonna taste super eggy. I thought the texture would be weird, but it is really good. This with like taco fixings in it would be really good. I just need to figure out how to cook it so it's not crunchy. Maybe crunchy would be good. Maybe cook it and make it like a chip, a high protein chip. I really didn't think I was gonna like this. I just want to show you all the cracking. So it's not perfect, but I think it's more technical error on my part by the fact that my oven is not even. So I will have to maybe put some like tin foil or something on one side of the baking dish if I'm gonna make this again. But this doesn't have an eggy flavor at all. I was worried it was gonna be super eggy. Okay. It tastes a little bit like egg, but it's not super eggy. It's not super cheesy. It almost kind of tastes like hardly anything. I think if you put everything but the bagel on this, that would be really good. I'm gonna be making this, and I was just thinking BLTs this summer with my homegrown tomatoes. That's gonna be a winner. And I'll just eat this crispy bit. I might put it in the air fryer too for a couple more minutes and eat that like chips, because I'm gonna have a crispy bit here. This bit is gonna be a little crispy, and then I basically have kind of like a wrap. I guess I could use it as a fork, but this is technical error, I think. I'm gonna try this again. If you guys have made this, give me your tips and tricks on this, because this has way more potential than I thought. It's always fun when different recipes go viral and I try them, because sometimes they have become our new favorites. Not all of the viral recipes I've tried have become our favorites, but there's definitely a handful that have become our favorites. Now this recipe is not a viral recipe, but I think it's gonna taste good. This recipe has less protein in it than I was expecting. I did look up the protein on this. This has 378 calories, 11 grams of protein, and 3 grams of fiber. It has more fat, it has 27 grams of fat and 25 carbs. But for a dessert, that's pretty good. We're gonna taste it. So we've got our crust on the bottom, our cream cheese filling, and our berry compote. I'm trying each individual component. The crust I did not bake long enough. It's not fully cooked. There's no egg in it, so it's kind of chewy, which I like, but it's not crunchy. Tastes good though. Okay. That cheesecake mixture is fantastic. I think I like it better without the crust, which is crazy because usually cheesecake, the crust is my favorite part. But the crust it's kind of chewy. I said I didn't mind it. I don't mind it, but I think I just like this like creamy cheesecake mixture with the compote. This I would tweak. This is not a winner. It's very good. I will eat all of them. And I think they'll be better when they're really, really cold. But I think next time I make this, I'm not gonna make it with a crust. I'm just gonna make the cheesecake mixture and the compote. Very good. I think I added too much salt. Maybe that's the problem with the crust. That might be my problem. That crust is just a little too salty. Did I add too much salt? You saw it. I don't remember how much salt I added. I think that's why I don't like the crust that much, because it's a little salty. The rest of it, perfect. That cheesecake mixture, it's soft, it's not overcooked, it's perfectly set, and perfectly delicious. One reason I love trying new recipes is I just never know when I'm gonna find my next favorite recipe, and the dressing on that chicken salad is so good. I will absolutely be using the rest of those pickled jalapenos to blend up into some green goddess dressing with herbs that are coming out of my garden and herbs that I get at the store, because that was so good. And then the egg life, or I'm calling them egg life wraps, they're not. The egg cottage cheese wraps are great. The dessert needs a little tweaking, but I'm really excited for the breakfast bagel sandwiches. I will be eating one of those after my workout in the morning tomorrow, and it will hit the spot with a nice cup of coffee. So if you want to enjoy more high protein, high fiber meal prep videos, I can pop those here. You can go enjoy between now and my next upload. Some of these weren't super high fiber, but they were relatively high protein. But some of those recipes are a little bit higher fiber. So I just want to thank you for being here. Thank you for being you, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.